Welcome to Phazon Labs, the internet's premier Metroid Futurist podcast, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network, where every week we go in and we bang our Phazon rocks together and see if it explodes into an awesome new Metroid game. And I am, as always, your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this week is my friend, compatriot, and lab rat, Michael Brown.
Nah.
Accurate. Test results inconclusive. So this week we're gonna bring it back to looking at what might come next after Metroid Dread. Now that it's had a little time to settle into our thoughts, into the canon, and I'd like to go back to playing with what do we think happens next. Because we've kind of dipped away from that for a little bit here. But I feel like it's time to get back to it.
It honestly never even occurred to me that that's an option. Like everything, I've just been spitting out random bullshit.
And I've had a ton of fun with it. So I'm not mad by any means. All right. So I got one here for you off my list. Here's the pitch. Samus finds her way and lands on a Chozo grave planet. So I'm thinking like, kind of elephant graveyard style grave planet full of dead Chozo. And she gets there and starts fighting her way through a subterranean cave system. And at the center of this planet, something is reanimating the corpses of the dead Chozo throughout this planet.
I was sincerely hoping you were going to say zombie Chozo.
You fucking bet ya. So, boss fights would be against the undead versions of Chozo that she was actually close to in her childhood. And the closer she gets to the core, the more of themselves these boss Chozo retain mentally and plead for their lives and for mercy, making it harder for Samus to actually have to put them down and put them back in the ground. And just to add to the torment, she actually has to bury them again once they're defeated. Like, literally put them back in the ground. Yes. Also, this gives an opportunity to explore her childhood, her upbringing, and her Chozo training, because you can get into some of the sequences in these fights where, leading up to the actual fight itself, and some of the dialogue back and forth between these reanimated Chozo zombie corpses, where you find out that, you find out more about her life being brought up by the Chozo. It's a rare opportunity story-wise to actually glimpse into that piece of her that we don't really ever see. My thought would be is that at the center of this planet, what's causing all this, I want a Necro X-Core. Like, it actually managed to escape and get to this grave planet, and somewhere along the line it passed through something in space that gave it the ability to actually start reanimating corpses as an X, but without actual direct contact infection. That it mutated a necromancy ability.
But what if it's actually infected the whole planet?
Ooh. That almost feels like too much.
I don't think so. So I think at that point it gives you like everything, like every creature on the planet, every bad guy type thing, plus the Chozo. So that way, other creatures living on the planet makes sense that they're all undead now too.
True. So, other piece that I'd want to put in here, just to dive a little more into her character, to explore the idea of Samus as a flawed character too, is that along the way, in one of these interactions, she ends up having to, they bring up, and she kind of has to face down and own some sort of like awful thing she did as a child. Kind of exploring the concept of her as a flawed character for the first time. But somewhere, some awful thing that, even though it was an accident, maybe was resulted in loss of life or something horrible that she's kind of been living with this whole time.
Okay.
So, but to get to the end game here, I'm thinking we managed to make our way to the tomb of the Chozo Council that took to their grave a new weapon to take on the X that they were developing, and she gets it from them, uses it to destroy the X core at the center of the planet that's causing all the rising dead across this Chozo grave planet. And that reminds me, the other thing too, and I know I'm a little all over the place, but part of why I'm thinking the necromancy ability as opposed to a full planet-wide infestation of X would be that it's just this one mass X core, and because it's coming from the X core that's buried or embedded itself in the center of the planet, is that the deeper you go, the closer you get, the more powerful its influence and effect is. So there's your difficulty scale right there as you're going deeper and deeper, because you're getting closer and closer to it, where it has a stronger, more powerful influence.
Okay. I can see that.
But I think this would be... I definitely like to see this take the opportunity to refocus on a little more of the horror feel that the series has sometimes dabbled into. But it never feels like it's really ever fully committed to a game with that full-blown horror feel.
I would like this game to take place immediately after Dread. To where the wound of finding out that, in a sense, Ravenbeak was her dad and is basically an asshole, is still fresh. And then she has to deal with this. And I'd like to see her just get more and more unhinged as it progresses, because it's fucked up.
Right. Also, here's one for you. She does have to feed by way of the Metroid DNA ability.
I love it.
But it's harder and harder to do because most everything that's running around here is already dead.
Ooh, I like that.
So you can play with some resource starvation.
Well, I don't know, because these things being reanimated by the X parasite, the X core, they would give off residuals, but she could probably eat that.
Could be that it's reanimated, that it's toxic to her.
I could see that. Or there could be a reverse difficulty spike in that it starts out at the beginning a little harder because she has difficulty finding creatures to eat, basically. But as she progresses further, the creatures get more and more plentiful, so she has more and more to feed from.
Right.
So that could also be why she gets more powerful as she gets towards the end.
There you go. That's not a bad way to do it. I like that. So what if anything would you want to see out of this that I haven't already thrown on the table?
I'd like to see really unique weapons. I don't know what exactly. I'd like to see her use the grappling beam as a weapon.
Right. I wouldn't mind seeing that come back.
Yeah, literally latch onto something, swing it around into other creatures. The you know, the actual beam itself is electricity, so you basically have an energy whip.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it once before, but that's not hard to roll in with her life drain or energy drain ability, considering they've done that with the grapple beam in Corruption.
Yeah.
So that's not out of place in the least, honestly. You know, this could almost be an opportunity too to maybe dabble in less of the Chozo science and a little bit of Chozo mysticism, faith and religion, because you could drag with you find as you're going along some various bits of Chozo arcane knowledge and abilities that can be used to try and weaken some of the undead, or put them in a state to where you can actually put them down.
New weapon idea. I want to see gravity missiles.
Ooh,
like something that has a dual use. You could fire it at the ceiling and use it to get a little bit more height before you get the space jump.
Well, I'll say you could do that. You could use them essentially as an area of effect weapon, where maybe you're more frequently now dealing with like enemies so fast that you can't hit them, and so you basically detonate a gravity missile in an area, and once this thing blitzes into the area of effect of the gravity missile, it increases the gravity that forces it to slow down enough to where you can actually hurt it.
It doesn't affect you because you have the gravity suit.
That's right.
Cool.
No, gravity missile's a great idea to play with. You could do a lot of really cool puzzle platform stuff with that. I think it would be a really neat way to get away from relying on the ice beam or the ice missile at this point as the only thing that really changes your platforming by way of a weapon.
So that's what I mean. I would like entirely new weapons. Don't revisit anything we've seen in every game.
Yeah.
Maybe the wave beam can stay.
Only if it actually gets wavy again.
Yeah.
I'm sad that that's gone away. I really like that aesthetic. It helps. Because I mean, at this point, aside from it being purple, there's nothing that really says wave beam about it anymore.
Besides the fact that it goes through walls.
Right. But in terms of watching it fly through the air, there's nothing that's indicative that that's the wave beam, other than it's now just purple instead.
Right.
Which I think is sad. Well, I do think it's interesting too, though. They've really kind of rearranged the importance of the beams in terms of the fact that, wave beam is now like an end game beam upgrade instead of one of the first. So same thing with the wide beam, which used to be the spacer. But
I think they should have stuck with the name spacer.
Actually, I can give you an explanation as to why that changed.
Why?
So in Super was the last game where you could actually go in and turn various beams on and off from the stacked abilities.
Yeah.
And the spacer beam and the plasma beam were actually incompatible. You could only use one at a time. You had to pick which one. The plasma beam was more powerful, but the spacer beam had the triple wide beam going.
Yeah.
So you couldn't stack both together at the same time. When we got to Fusion, we could no longer go into the menu and turn abilities on and off. And so you couldn't stack the spacer on top of the plasma. They're incompatible. And so what they did is they took out the spacer, introduced the wide beam instead. Said this is a different thing.
Okay. All right.
So canonical explanation as to that, so that way they don't contradict themselves with what they established in Super. But I miss the Spazer Beam. I miss the Spazer Beam being the Spazer Beam. So, but let's put a bow on this. This needs a name. I've got an idea, but I'm curious if anything pops into your head.
I've got nothing.
All right. So, Metroid 6, the hotly anticipated sequel to Metroid Dread. Metroid Dead. The past can't stay buried forever.
I'll allow it.
So that's it. Let's wrap this up. Let's get it into the customary manila envelope. Have it hand delivered by our secret cockpit espionage ninjas that we keep in our employ. Have them break into Sakamoto's office and put it on his desk. And he'll find it on Monday when this episode airs.
Acceptable.
Amen. So, I want to say thank you to everybody that came and hung out with us this week. Thank you to my lab partner, Michael. And we'll see you all back here next week on Phazon Labs, powered by the World 101 Podcast Network. Press start to engage your mind. See you next mission. Peace!